Hello and welcome to the second episode of The Leader's Den. I'm so thrilled that you are here. It means the world to me. So, in this episode, you will find no frills, no jingles, no fancy music. This is just raw and unedited. And what I plan to do is keep these episodes short and give you some leadership tips and tricks and share some stories so that you will leave listening to this podcast with some inspiration and something that you can take away from it. So today I wanted to talk to you about conflict, and that is because as a mediator I am around conflict all the time. But what I actually have noticed is that many people are afraid of conflict. And I used to be one of those. And so there's nothing wrong with it. Actually, we are hardwired not to like conflict. Because think of it in the old days when we were hunter-gatherers and we were living in our tribes. If we were faced with conflict, what could happen? Or if we were the one who were constantly instigating conflict, what could happen? Well, what the worst thing that could happen is that we would really, let me say, upset people, and that we were being kicked out of our tribe. And once we are being kicked out of our tribe, we were on our own. And we all know that as human beings, we need each other to survive. So we would have most likely died. So we're inside hardwired to avoid conflict. Of course, there's always some exceptions, and I'll talk about that in another episode in which I will discuss the conflict styles. But most people are actually hardwired to avoid conflict. The reality is that we need to be able to deal with conflict in a healthy way, because look around you. Everywhere in this world there's conflict, and we have heavy conflict, wars and things like that, but we also have the little conflicts, the conflicts with our families and the conflicts in communities and in workplaces. And so we need to learn that conflict is a given. Throughout history there has been conflict in the world. People who have different religions, people who have different values, people who have different cultures, people who have different political opinions. That is a given. And what we need to do is find ways to deal with those differences or to deal with those conflicts in a healthy way. So for me, I always like to keep things simple. So for me, conflict is actually a breakdown in human relationships. So sometimes we have a conflict and it doesn't really matter because we will see that person never again, so we can just let it go. But sometimes we are in a, whether it's a workplace relationship or if it's within our community or within our family, and there's a conflict and we actually need to deal with that. And so what I was saying is most people avoid it. So if you avoid it, what will happen? Yes, it will keep festering, because just because you avoid a conflict doesn't mean that it has gone away. It will keep lingering, and always, when you least expect it and need it, it will resurface. So if you don't deal with those issues that are underlying in the conflict, then it will come up again, and you're better being proactive and address them heads on. So that means that if you are one of those people who are actually worried, and I just came back from a meeting with a client who actually said we tiptoe around the issues with this particular person because we don't want to upset them. And that is something I hear all the time. But if you keep tiptoeing around it, you know that you're not going to get the results that you want, because it will come back every time and time again. In this particular case, there was somebody who was actually really grumpy, moody, always complaining. And so that won't stop if you avoid it. And of course, somebody will no longer take it, and that's when people like myself are being asked to come in. So as a leader, just know that maybe addressing conflict and diving into a conflict is not your comfort zone, but you need to get out of your comfort zone and deal with it, because we want our leaders to be warm in the sense that we can connect with them, that we can trust them, that we can build a relationship with them. Because if our leaders are cold, we can't do that and we feel intimidated. So we want our leaders to be warm, but we also want our leaders to be strong in the sense that they've got our back, they are there for results, and they take care of us as a team. And that means dealing with conflict and also addressing issues and having difficult conversations. So what I would like you to do, whether you're a leader who has a position or you are a leader without a position, is to look at conflict in a different way, and to from now on see conflict as an opportunity. Yes, you hear me right. It is actually an opportunity. It doesn't have to be that scary thing. It doesn't have to be that when you address conflict that it will escalate and things will get worse. Actually, conflict is an opportunity, because if you address the issues, it gives you several things. First of all, you can deepen your relationship. When you deepen your relationship and you have honest and open conversations about the issues that are leading up to the conflict, you get to know each other better. And what happens when you get to know each other better? You can look at things from the other person's point of view. And so the second thing is that you create mutual understanding. So I understand you better and you understand me better. The third opportunity that conflict offers is actually an opportunity to clarify issues. I'm going to stress this. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have sat down with people, whether it was 3 people or 22 people, who all have a different version of the same event that took place. Because we see the world as we are, not as it is. So we need to clarify issues, because we make assumptions. Something happens and we make an assumption. They did that on purpose. They said that because the last time in a meeting I said this. We make up our own stories. But if we sit down and we have open and honest conversations, we can actually clarify those issues. And what I often use as an expression to start a mediation with is, what is it? It is courage is what it takes to sit down. No, I'm saying it wrong now. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. And courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. So conflict resolution is all around speaking up and listening. And by the way, this is a quote from Winston Churchill. So the last part, so once we have deepened our relationship, we have created mutual understanding, and we have clarified issues, the last thing is then it is a catapult for change. So we can change things. We can decide to move on, to do things differently, to do things better. So this is why it's so important to address issues. And this is why you shouldn't be afraid to address issues and not worry too much about escalations. Because if you go about this in a respectful way, in a way that you speak up, but also that you give the other person the opportunity to speak up, and that you listen to what they say, and that you look at an opportunity to resolve the conflict in a way that it's okay for everyone, then this is the best way to go about it. So think about it right now. Is there a situation that you think could lead to a conflict, or is already a conflict, or is a difficult conversation? Is there something that you need to address? Did somebody overstep your boundaries, or did somebody overstep the boundaries of someone else in your team? Is somebody ignoring your needs or the needs of your team? Somebody breaching your values or the values of your team? Is somebody having beliefs that you don't think are the truth and are different from your beliefs? Is there a difficult conversation that you could have with this person to actually address the issues? So, if there is, I strongly advise you to have that conversation. And by the way, if you want to know how to do that, go to my website, www.tilanligierse.com, my full name.com, and you will see that you can download the Difficult Conversations Roadmap. And because, remember, we want our leaders to be warm and strong. And if you are a leader who is ignoring conflict, who is just hoping that it will go away, you actually are seen by your people as a weak leader. They might not say that to your face, but they actually will say to each other, look at her or look at him. They're not speaking up, they're not addressing these issues and, fill in their own story as to why you're not doing that. So, instead of being afraid of conflict and completely ignoring it and walking on eggshells because you're too worried that you're going to upset someone, how about having an honest and open conversation and discuss with them the issues, your issues, listen to their issues and see how you can find ways to move forward. And like I said, feel free to go to my website and download the Difficult Conversations Roadmap, which will be very useful for you. So, just a favor to ask from you now. I am starting this podcast, and I would absolutely love it if you would like this podcast and if you would subscribe, because the more people, and share this podcast, because the more people hear this podcast, the more I can do with this podcast. I've already started addressing the issues that people are asking me, and I'm looking forward to continue that. But I also would love to have guests on my podcast. So if you can help me share this podcast and share it with someone who could use this and who should hear this right now, I super appreciate it. So thank you so much for listening. It was great to talk to you about one of my passions, to see opportunity in conflict and to see conflict as an opportunity for meaningful change. And I am looking forward to hearing from you again, and have a great day.